everyone, my name is Ella and welcome to the first episode of my new video series, Monsters Monday. And today I'm going to discuss every teenage girl's dream boyfriend ever since Twilight. Yep, vampires. I mean though, seriously, did you ever pick up a YA paranormal romance? It's basically girl meets boy, girl finds out she's boy's food, girl falls endlessly in love with boy, then true love. You might be surprised to know that there are actually a couple of different definitions for vampires, but the most common one is, and I wanna have to read this off the notebook here, a corpse that leaves its grave at night in order to drink the blood of the living by biting their necks with long pointed canine teeth. And even then, you can't find a definition for these guys. The definition of the word corresponds with the Eastern European folklore about vampires, which makes sense since scholars generally agree that the origin of the word vampire is from the Slavic languages. And if you don't know what the Slavic languages are, basically think about all those languages that sound like Russian, yeah, those languages. And that explains why you can write vampire without an E, or you can substitute the I with the Y, which are the two other ways you can spell vampire. Did you ever wonder why vampires are such popular paranormal creatures? Well, maybe it has something to do with their origin story, which they don't have one. One, that is. Every culture, mythology, even religion has its own story for how vampires came to be. But one special lady appears in nearly all of them. Can you guess? Lilith, the original I'm a monster. Sorry Lady Gaga, but your throne is taken. She's called by different names in all the different stories, but the overall story is that she was Adam's first wife and she was his equal. And for some reason, either she left him or he left her. Anyway, that didn't work out and Adam went whining to God, which led to Lilith being punished by God by that he basically throws her out of heaven. Gee, I wonder when God will ever do that again. And after Adam and Eve get thrown out of heaven as well, Lilith grows paranoid that Adam's and Eve's children will want to seek revenge on behalf of their father on her. So she basically becomes a blood-sucking monster that first preys on babies, and then after she drinks the baby dry, she continues on to the parents. And you thought your ex was crazy. And another version of the story that, I just have to mention is that after Cain gets his sentence and starts wandering around, she meets him, they hook up, and then their children are the first vampires that eventually lead to the entire vampire race. Talk about family drama. There is also a Greek myth concerning vampires. So one of Zeus's many mistresses was Lamia. And when Hera, queen of the gods and Zeus's wife, finds out, she is really pissed. Seriously, you think that she'll get used to it by now? So she decides that she's going to punish Lamia by either kidnapping or killing her children, which leads Lamia into becoming a baby blood-sucking monster. Let's just call out the obvious that in both the stories there was a maniac woman that was to be blamed for causing the vampire race. But the days of glory for the vampires, when they really became famous, was during the Middle Ages. The mass hysteria from vampires started in Eastern Europe and slowly made its way all over Europe, so that basically everybody was in huge fear from vampires. Like, people did crazy things. But still, you can find vampire myths from all over the world. The first type of vampire that I'm going to talk about has cold skin, fangs, and when it's angry, its eyes turn bloodshot red. Also, it can walk out during the sunlight without any harm coming to it. Does that remind you of anybody? I have finally found what is the correct name for what is Edward Cullen. And no, my friends, it is not a fairy. And I kid you not, this is the real name. He is a pink vampire. Yup, you heard me, a pink vampire. I have found the perfect tool for all of those don't drink while you're underage or don't drink and drive lectures, and it comes all the way from Bulgaria. Just tell people that they're going to turn into crappy jacks. Basically, people believe that if you'll drink wine, you'll turn into a vampire that only has one nostril and forked tongue. Yeah, not fun. Do you want an awkward vampire? Well, the German Alps are definitely that. They're believed to drink blood from the nipples of their prey. Yep, both male and female. Imagine the Germans telling that to their kids at night. But it wasn't that bad compared to Romania. Romania had a lot of different myths and folklore about vampires, but basically any child that was born with some disfigurement happened to be the seventh son, had red hair and blue eyes. His mother happened to have an unusual pregnancy or happened to be an illegitimate child, was believed to become a vampire once it dies. Talk about not accepting those different than you. According to the Serbians, vampires could do nearly everything because they were believed to cause the eclipse. Imagine the mortal fear that goes through all of the people's hearts as that beautiful eclipse starts happening and they're like, the vampire's here to kill us, the vampire's here to kill us. If you happen to come across a Jilangshin while you're in China, don't worry. It doesn't matter that they can suck your blood, have poisonous breath, and can basically create zombies, because they are compelled by some supernatural force to count each and every grain of rice if they come across a pile of it. So take those rice bags that you bought at the supermarket and start pouring them like crazy. The most creepy vampire award goes to the Australian Yaramagahuno, which has a 1.25 meter red body and an enormous head. And if you think that's funny, just wait for the next part. It has kind of like suckers or leeches all over its body, and when it wants to eat you, it basically pins you down and starts draining your blood through those leeches. And then once it finishes drinking your blood, it goes off to clean itself because, you know, civilized vampire. When it comes back, you're still somehow miraculously alive, and then it swallows you whole. To which point it pukes you up and then swallows you, and pukes you and swallows you again and again until you eventually shrink down to its size. And then you become a creature just like him. Thanks, Australia. Thanks for the nightmares. Vampires don't have a set sort of rules to them, which makes them for a very easy subject for a writer to manipulate into his or her story. This could be the explanation of why vampires are so popular in all forms of art. The classic Dracula by Bram Stoker is considered to be the ultimate vampire book, and it has been a source of inspiration for many writers and books. One of them being The Historian by Elizabeth Kostova, who has a character quite like Dracula in the book that her character researches about. If there is one genre that vampires dominate over, it is the paranormal romance. From books like Twilight by Stephanie Meyer, The Vampire Diaries by L.J.Smith, and Vampire Academy by Mead, to books like the Southern Vampire Mysteries by Charlaine Harris, vampires showed us that they could be charming when they truly want to. But that doesn't mean that they can't pull off horror as well. Just take, for example, the classic Carmilla by Joseph Sheridan Lefroy, or the Vampire Chronicles by Anne Rice. They can even pull off a YA horror series like the Saga of Darren Shan by Darren Shan. Hey, vampires are also great on TV shows, and here are just a couple that you can obsess over. We have the ever iconic Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the British Being Human, the pretty famous The Vampire Diaries and its excellent spin-off of the originals, and of course True Blood. There are plenty of vampire movies, and just some of them are Bram Stoker's Dracula, Blade, which was adapted from a Marvel's comic series, and of course those movies that it doesn't matter how hard you try, you can never escape from, the Twilight Saga movies. That's the end of my video. I just want to say that all the jokes I made about Twilight were said in good humor. I was a fan of Twilight back then. I get you Twilight fans, don't kill me. I will be leaving links down below to places where you can find out more about the books, TV shows, and movies that I mentioned in this video if you're interested. I hope you enjoyed and thank you for watching. Goodbye!